again. Okay, welcome everyone to our class in how to plummet the depths of Torah through, of course, Torah Sheba'al Peh, the Mishnah, the Gemara, Rishonim. We're in what I've labeled as stage 3. Stage 1 was the Torah, the Pesukim themselves. Stage 2 was the Mishnayos. Stage 3 is the Gemara. Our Gemara, very quick review, started with the pasuk of they made of Kamar Yishalem. We had a machlokus between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva. Was it talking about the Nizak or the Mazik? And the Gemara then, Tanayim, that's those people at the Tanaic level, those are Mishnaic level. The Gemara then, who the Amarayim, come and they are going to analyze these two, this machlokus. And the Gemara said, well, what could be the foundation of their machlokus? First they thought, which they eliminated out of hand very quickly, that maybe it was about evaluation of damage, and that's why you have to pay the best of your field. Even if you damage the worst of his field, you had to pay the best. That couldn't be because there wasn't a coherence between the paying for the best of your field when you damage the worst and paying the best when it's the best. So that was eliminated quickly. That wasn't even a shita. The second position was, well, the Gemara's machmir on the mazik when there's a suffix. If you don't know what was damaged in the field, we send in the assessor. He says, oh, here we don't know if it was good or bad, but the Torah says you have to pay for the good. So that's better because you could have damaged the good, but it still goes against the rule of Hamatz Michar Labaraya. So then the Gemara had to go to the third position, which was we're talking about payment. It has nothing to do with assessment of damage. We'd been in that track. Now we're talking about payment. And the Gemara tells you that you have to pay with the best of your land. Okay? And then what was the machlokus between Rabbi Akiva and, on this side, and Rabbi Yishmael? Well, when you pay with the best of your land, do you have to pay up to the level of the Nizak's best or up to the level of your best? If your worst is equal to his best, do you have to give your best? That's what Rabbi Akiva says, and Rabbi Yishmael says, no, you just have to pay him up to the level of his best. Okay, good. Then the second statement of Rabbi Akiva, which is also a machlokus between him and Rabbi Yishmael, was an extension. The extension was the kal v'chomer, the hegdish. And that's what we were discussing the last time we were together, is the kal v'chomer, the hegdish. Okay, so the first supposition was that he's talking about the same context when he says kal v'chomer, i.e., we want to learn damages in the secular world, which is what we're talking about, Meitiv Sadeu, and we're going to extend it to hegdish. Okay, so that's what we tried to do. All of a sudden, there's another pasuk that says Rehu, and you don't pay for all for hegdish. So this, what I call the satum, this blocked our escape. We tried to get there, but it says it couldn't be regular hegdish because regular hegdish doesn't pay. So we went on the other side here, and we said maybe we're talking about another type of, which is giving a mana, Levedic bias. $100 to medical bias. So we said, wait a minute, that's only a balchov. Balchov's in Zbaininus. And even if so this type of monolevitic bias is only a balchov, Baininus. And even if you tell me Rabbi Akiva holds it won't work because since this is a balchov of hegdish, not a simple secular balchov, we could earn the balchov of hegdish because hegdish is weaker than niskei hedget because, as we said, it doesn't pay for damage. It's a tircha of the kal v'chomer. Okay, so then we went back to this side of the equation and we said, okay, we're going to have to say that Rabbi Akiva holds like a minority opinion, which we didn't want to say. That's why we tried these two alternative positions, which were less dochek. But yeah, he holds like Rabbi Shimon Menasya. We're forced to say it. Who holds that you do pay? So it turns out that niskei hegdish is more machmir than niskei hedget because he doesn't learn re'ehu. He learns re'ehu that only a re'ehu gets 50% reduction, but you that damaged hegdish get no reduction at all. So hegdish turned out to be much greater. Okay, that was a very rapid overview. Okay, but basically that's what we did. Now,
So my comment that I wanted to make was I was thinking what was bothering me last week
Yes.
was the Gemara's comparison to Harei and Mani Lebedek Habayis, by comparing Hezek or Nezek to pledge. Why would you think that when somebody makes a pledge, and that why would you think that if you damage and you have to pay with idus, that if you make a pledge, you also have to pay with idus? Well, why would you think the two are similar?
Okay, so now that's
so I was trying to think
go ahead. Oh, you thought about it. Great, wonderful. Yes.
Right. So I was trying to think about the different aspects and trying to understand why the Gemara made them similar. So I came up with like two things that they actually are similar. When somebody is mazik somebody else, they're creating an obligation by themselves, which is irrevocable, and that obligation now becomes collectible without the involvement of the other person. Without the involvement, still going back to the beginning. The obligation that they're creating is an obligation without involving the second party. It's permission. So when he's doing a hezek, he's not going over and asking the guy, oh, I want to get into this arrangement with you where I'm going to be mazik you and I'll owe you money. The hezek just happens, and now he obligates money to the other party. And the same is by hektish. He doesn't have to go over to hektish and say, I want to obligate myself to hektish, therefore get involved with me. He just says, Harei alai, and now he's obligated. He's obligated to the extent, both on the case of hezek and on the case of hektish, where once he creates that obligation, he can revoke it. Now the nizik comes and collects from him, and now the gizbar comes and collects from him.
Very good.
So it turns out that they're very similar in the way they work, and therefore the Gemara feels comfortable comparing them.
Right. Excellent. They're both balei chovs, you're saying, that were created. The chiv was only created by the bal chov himself.
Right.
It had nothing to do with the haskama, let's say, of the third party, or the other party, right? The second party. The Hegdish did not have to agree, and the guy who damaged didn't agree either. It was just an obligation that came by himself, and that's how they're similar.
Right.
Excellent.
Right.
Excellent.
Whereas
So we said,
you need to have two parties to agree to it. A ksubas, you have to have two parties to agree to it. So I thought that was a interesting way to look at it. Because what I was doing what Ramchal does. Okay, let's go and look at the aspects and understand what it's all about. And once you take it to the next level of looking at their details, then you see where they're similar.
Right. Then we would have to ask also, why is it that Bal Chov would not be taught and Manu Lebedek Habayis, excuse me, no, it is a Bal Chov. Now we're saying we want to learn it directly, right? The first move was to say, let's learn this directly, as you outlined. But then we said, wait a minute, it's only a Bal Chov. So in other words, we had to discount in the thinking in the real iyun. We would then have to understand now, what did we think, and what was the new relationship that we are now being taught, that it's like a Bal Chov. Because you said, wait a minute, a Bal Chov is an agreement between the giver, the party who's giving, and the person who is taking. So now, how come all of a sudden we said this Manu Lebedek Bal Chov is more equivalent to a Bal Chov than it is to Nezikin? Okay. We make that distinction in our analysis.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So So that is exactly what's going on here. If you remember the Ramchal, the Ramchal in the beginning of Higayon says is the basis of thinking is called Dimyan and Hevdel, which means if two things are similar, then we're going to learn one from the other. If there's a Hevdel, we're not going to learn, right? Now, the keynote is what it's all about. Like, in what aspect are these things similar or dissimilar, and why would that be the link moved in from one to the next? In other words, is that an essential characteristic of both, a non-essential? How exactly, why does that become the essential characteristic? And that's exactly what they're battling with here. And it's Baruch Hashem that you did what you did, because that's exactly what's going on in the next level of the Gemara itself, which is really, in other words, there's what's written, and there's what you're supposed to understand from what's written. Someone asked me, why didn't they write everything down? I I said, if the Torah wrote everything, then you wouldn't be able to do Hagbah. You're supposed to be able to generate. The real answer is you're supposed to be able to generate all the connections in your head. Okay, and to see them. Now, of course, with Hitkas Doros, we see less and less. Okay, but that's exactly what's going on. We're trying to understand what is the relationship of the parts. And when we have a statement of Rebbe Akiva now, it will form certain relationships that then will go on throughout Shas. And if you have a person like Tosfos, he'll say, "Oh, wait a minute, we just formed a relationship between Nezikin and Hegdish, which now contradicts something over there in Meila or in Croesus or somewhere else." Okay, that's because he can hold all those relationships. But that's really what's going on. Okay, so I'm very happy for that move, and that's really what we have to train people to do, is to understand that. Right. This is what we're talking about, which is what's the case, what is the principal factor in the case that's causing the law, and why is it similar or dissimilar to another case. Okay? That's what the Gemara is doing, and that's what we have to be trained to do. Very good. Now, the Ramchal. Okay? The Ramchal in their Tfunos and tells us that the book, he has two parts. The first thing we spoke about was the Chelkei Mas and Matan, which is labeling the parties in the discussion. Who's making the statement, who's raising the objection, who's offering a solution to the objection, who is asking a question, who's answering a question, who's bringing a proof, who's destroying a proof, okay? And their parts. Okay, that's Chelkei Mas and Matan, which is very important. The second part is, he says that when you get down to the bottom line, like we just started to do, the bottom line is talking about basic pulot or seichel with which you understand what's being said. Okay? We're actually getting information through the written word here. Okay, and the oral law too, which is written down, and your Rebbe, whatever, the whole system. But the point is, basically, we're reading and we're understanding information. And the Ramchal tells us that the mind is set up with certain forms that will teach us what's being said. Okay? And the basic form is the statement, and then from the statement we're going to get to the Hekesh. Those are the two basic forms. Okay? So that's what he explained in the book first. What you have to understand is the statement itself. Then the statement, you have to then see if it generates more cases than what you have through Hekeshim. And then we have to learn how to see if the statement as being said is true or not. An evaluation of a statement is true or not. Okay. Now, why did I bring this up? Because that's exactly what we've just been doing in our classic case. Okay, the first thing that's on the floor here is, what does the pasuk when it says Meitav Sadehu mean? See, what does the statement mean in and of itself? Now, in order to understand what it meant, we had to go down certain paths and reject certain simpler meanings of the text, okay, till we got to our final understanding. And all that was based on a simple, not a simple thing, simple, but we're going to call it simple, whether there's a comparison or not. Okay? In other words, here's a statement that was said, maybe Meitav means give the best even if you destroy the worst. So we brought a proof against that, right, that says from Seichel, which is Al Pi Teva, as he said in his proofs and disproofs, that it's inconsistent, and therefore we can't take that position, because you can't give a kanas to someone in one case and not in another. That's called coherent. It's not coherent. Good. Then the other case was a possibility of a suffix. Then we broke it by a rule. Al pi Kabbalah. We have a rule that says hamotz michaver al when it comes to secular things. So there we broke that possibility. Then we wanted to say it's talking about this, and we accepted it. And we showed Rebbe Kiva disagreed with it. Now, once we understood what the statement meant, and that was not an easy thing to do, it was all involved in this reaction between that statement and either Teva, common sense, or Kabbalahs that we have, like Motzi Michavero. So then once we satisfied that we understood now the statement, what it means, and we understand it's a machlokus between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel, then we notice that Rabbi Akiva did the second move, which was called Hekesh. Right? Remember? This is called Holodis Toldasam. Now that I understand the statement, what does it lead to? So Rabbi Akiva says, you know what it leads to? It leads to a din in Hegdish. Okay, that's what he says. Leads to Hegdish. Okay, and that din we're going to learn through a Hekesh called a Kal V'chomer, one of the Hekeshim. You see, that's how he spread it. Now, in our understanding, we then want to again: is the statement true or false? Not that Rabbi Akiva is true or false. We know he's saying something true, but is the statement in its simplistic meaning true or false? Or does it mean something deeper? Was he saying his statement in context, and therefore he's saying, remember, Rabbi Akiva is talking in light of all Chazal. It's a big, we can't even imagine how big he is. So he knows about all these rules, Motzim Chavaro, he knows about or Re'ehu, he knows about all these things, and he said his statement in the light of that. So we have to now understand what he meant. So we're now going to see, can we justify the simple meaning of his statement? What is the statement? Well, we start. What does the statement mean? Oh, it means that you can learn Niskei Hegdish from Niskei Hedget. Well, we run into a block, you see, which is a Raya Mitzad Kabbalah. You see, we have a Raya against this from Mitzad Kabbalah, which says Shorehu, meaning that you're putter. So it can't be talking about that. So we try the second possibility, which was Manuel Kabayas. Okay, there we said again, what is the Dimion? That's talking about what was the Dimion. Okay, and we said it was a Dimion to Baal Chov, and Baal Chov is only Baininus. You can't learn Baal Chov from Hegdish. We didn't think all the details of why. Then we tried to say maybe, and even if you hold that he holds that Baal Chov is from Idis, and you can theoretically learn it from the Zekin, but still we have this Pircha of Rei who again comes back to us. Okay, so that's not what he meant. So we had to go back to his original statement, our position, and say that he's holding like a Yachid, which was like Reb Shimon ben Nasi, and he doesn't hold Rei, and we solved him. So what the Ramchal has done in this little book is me, I don't have words for it. It's quite amazing what he did. In a few words, he's described the give and take. Now, of course, the interplay between the parts requires a lot of work and a lot of thinking, and why they accepted a comparison and rejected a comparison, okay? And that's what he says. You have to get down to the sof kavana. And getting down to the sof kavana, which means the bottom line reason why something is accepted or rejected, is another level and a lot of work. Okay, but we're going to leave that at that. I just want to show you that the Ramchal is alive and well, writing the Gemara, and he's describing exactly what's being done. Now, here in the Ramchal, we are now going to go to the second piece, which is a very exciting second piece here. Our visual logic layout. Okay, I think it's very, very helpful in teaching. Okay, now we're over here to this very, very important part. The Ramchal explains to us that once you understand what a statement says, the statement in itself, you now have to compare the statement called Hashvos Memorim to all the other statements and see, are there statements that are similar, dissimilar? If they are similar, how similar? Are they opposite to the statements? Okay, you have to go through the whole business of Hashvos Memorim. Okay, so let's the Ramchal. There we go. Okay, now after you understand the Mamarim in and of themselves, then you have to understand the Arich Mamar Acher. You now have to compare your statement with other statements. So that's exactly what Abai is going to do now. He's going to take our statement, now that we understand what it means, we're now going to compare it with another statement in the Chumash, and we're going to have what I called verses in collision. Okay, these two verses are going to collide with each other. And from this, you have this, what's that thing in Switzerland? This they spin this electron around very, very fast, and then it hits another exon, explodes, and they find new information. So from these two pasukim that collide into each other, we're going to find the real depth meaning of this pasuk of Meitav. And without it, we would be left with a very superficial understanding of what it meant. Okay, so now, since we're going to deal with mamarim in collision, okay, so I just want to show you here, just again, everything's so quick. So this, of course, we said statements can be similar. They can share certain subjects, certain predicate. They can be opposites. They can be inverses of each other. They can be the obverses, or they can not be talking about the same information. Okay, what I want to talk about is the hefchim, just to go to give us some again, conscious learning. This is the whole idea system, is to be consciously aware of what the learning system is about. So let's look what he says about the oops, let's see, I have him. Here we go. Okay, so in the hefchim, there are either two klaus or two prats that say, one says yes and one says no. Okay, that's a hefchim. So you have to always have, if you want to produce an opposite, so you have to have a subject and a predicate, and the gezerah, one says yes, one says no, and then you'll have a hef of the opposites. Okay, so now he says over here, very important, ulam keshikru hefchim tzarich sheyeh nosum v'noseim echad. Terms have to be equal. The terms have to be equal in order to have real. What does that mean? If I say exactly, both statements have to be talking about the same subject and the same predicate, and the only thing that changed was yes and no, is or is not. Okay, the gezerah. Okay, now he says, not only they have to be the same subjects, but avinu bisman achad. They better be talking about the same time. Not one's talking about the morning, one talking about the afternoon. That wouldn't be a hefech. I say, I went to, I didn't go to daven. Oh yeah, I didn't go to daven in the morning. In the afternoon, I did go to daven. Oh, that's called a hefech. Okay, they have to be talking about the same place and the same bechina. Okay, all those havchanot, which the Ramchal is talking about. So you better make sure we're talking about the same bechina. You know, kamas, eiches, and all the of sibum maledes. They have to be talking about the same havchana. Okay. And they both meant that that's the no same and the no sum in their literal sense, and there shouldn't be any homonyms there or any metaphors. Okay, good. Now he went on to explain all of it. That's a very important thing for our little discussion. Okay. Now, here we go to our discussion finally, Baruch Hashem. Here's our discussion. So now, I'm going to put you on the floor and you can start reading.
Okay, let's see.
That's Zayin Amud Aleph.
So, yeah, I want to find it in the Gemara.
Yes, please. Oh, I could also do that. I wanted to, oh boy. Okay, let's do that. And let's go here. Oh boy, where am I? I'm just trying to get Rashi there up on the board. That's Keshem Shaman right before that. Okay, we'll get Rashi up here. Rashi's another. Everyone in the Gemara is in another world, I tell you. Okay, here we go. Ramile Abayla Rava. Very good. So let's start with the Gemara.
Ramile Abayla Rava.
Okay, first of all, what's a Rami?
Okay. So.
Gin Rami, what's a Rami?
Rami. Oh, no, I was actually looking at that this morning. No, I was looking at the Mavaya Tam in the back of Brachas. So there are a lot of different types of questions. I don't remember what it said about a Rami, but a Rami is obviously a question.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is.
Okay, so let's see. Here we have it. We're getting close. the modern world. Isn't that amazing? Rabbi Goldstein used to hold up a piece of paper over his head. That was his overhead projector, you know. Okay, there we go. That was the, so now we have all these fancy things to chew. Where are we going? Okay, we're almost there. What am I doing here? Kusha. Here. Hakusha techalek l'shlosha. Echad pircha, hasheni rumia, v'shlishi tiyufta. Holds that a rumia is a kasha, and this is how he defines it. Okay, harumia keshiyavo shnei mamarim o shnei kasufim o misnadim uliavakesh yishuvam. You see, I would have said Sheva like you, but he says it's a kasha because the two pasukim contradict each other. Okay, two pasukim, two statements about same Amara.
Looking at Raminhu this morning.
Yes.
See, a Raminhu, according to the Mavar HaTalmud, is always a brisa or a mishnah, or even, and the pirush on the side of the Gemara in the back of the brachas that bring down. So even a Raminhu is even a sometimes a psukim. So he's calling. So the Ramchal is categorizing within a rumia a Raminhu.
Right.
He doesn't have any others though.
Look at his example. Look at his example. Look at his example. You mean he. Okay. Beseda. So, but basically, it's what I called verses or statements in collision.
Right.
That's what hefchim are. They collide into each other because one says yes and one says no, and they're talking about the same subject, same predicate, the same aspect. So it actually means Rami means to throw. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, the Ramchal doesn't get into this, but sometimes the Gemara uses Raminhu, and sometimes it uses Rami, and I think there are differences. That's what I was trying to remember. But,
fine. I'm sure. But in other words, whether it's some just of the Pesukim, some is a Brisa, some is those are very wonderful distinctions to learn. But the basic format is that two statements clash. Now, the subtleties of the language we definitely have to learn also, subtle differences, but basically you're taking two statements that are contradictory. So that's what Abaya does. Now, the other point I wanted to bring out, which is very, very important, I just want to say all these things because they have to be stated, people have to know it. Some people learn Gemara and say, oh, wow, we got to the two dots, let's go. You know what I mean? Of course, it's a lot of work. No one's saying no. But the point is, the real truth is that the Gemara, in a conclusion, there's the subtotal in a spreadsheet, you know? Now, we're going to now carry that conclusion on forward. It's now, okay, now we go to a new item, a new day. Every day is connected to every other day, you know, and every check is connected to every other check, and there's a balance, you see. So once we've gone through this Hamlet of Yekiva, we are now here in our thinking. And Abaya is here in his thinking, okay? In other words, Abaya had Rabbi Akiva. He knows Rabbi Akiva. He's thought about Rabbi Akiva. He's studied Rabbi Akiva. He's spoken to his Chavrim about Rabbi Akiva. Okay? Now, he then, on the basis that Rabbi Akiva is saying that you have to give the best of your land when you pay back for damages. Okay? I hit Rabbi Manasseh. I didn't mean to hit, right? We want to stay here first. That also is important, but not for us. Okay? Since Rabbi Akiva is saying that you have to pay the best of your land to pay back for your damages. So now Abaya turned to his Chavrusa and he said, wait a minute. How could we have gotten to this conclusion that Rabbi Akiva holds you have to pay the best of your land when you do damage? There's another pasuk that contradicts it. Okay? So that's what my point I want to bring out. What we conclude over here is the beginning point for the next discussion. Okay? So let's see now in that context how it works. Okay?
So Ramile Abai L'Rava, K'siv Meitav Sadeu U'Meitav Karma Yishalem, Meitav In, Midiachwina Loi. So Abai is making a diak from the pasuk, really, and he's saying that it's mashma from the pasuk that the only thing you could pay with is meitav and nothing else.
Right. Right, you said beautifully. You see, a diuk, that's a memra diuk of a baya. If you want to get now with Derek Tefunos, it's called a memra diuk. It's 4 parts of a mamarim, and one is called a diuk, the only perish agada, but and a kimta. But exactly, so he makes a diuk from the pasuk that says meitav in midyachrina lo. The only thing you can pay is with meitav karka. Very good.
So now we ask the question, V'hatanya, but we learned in a brisa, and of course V'hatanya means a brisa, says Yashiv, the Rabbi Shavakesef, Vafilu Subin. So it says in the brisa that there's a pasuk that says Yashiv, and the pasuk of Yashiv is, the pasuk of, there it is, Bal Habar Yishalim Kesef Yashiv LeBa'alav.
Right.
So it's talking about a Baal Habar paying for the damage that his bar did. He returns the kesef to the owner of the animal that got damaged in his bar. So the brisa learns from the word yashiv to include shava kesef, vafilu subin, even a shava kesef, which is of subin quality. Okay, so now this seemingly contradicts what Abaya says that the other pasuk says. The pasuk says, "Meitav kama yishalem," that you can only pay meitav. Yet this brisa is learning from the pasuk that you can even pay subin. Now you have to get there's a lot going on here.
Oh, yes, there is.
Okay, so first of all, Abaya is making a diuk on a pasuk. That he's saying the pasuk of Meitav Kam Yishalem is talking about. First of all, our pasuk is talking about image, and he's assuming that is going to be a general rule now, that you always pay with Meitav, number one. First of all, let's back up. Rule number one is that pasuk is applying to all damages that you pay with Meitav, and number two is he is analyzing the pasuk and saying that the outcome of this pasuk is saying that you could only pay meitav. So he's building from that pasuk two things. Number one is that you pay, that the pasuk of meitav applies everywhere. Number two is that you could only pay meitav.
Very good.
Based on his analysis of the pasuk, he's saying that there is a contradictory brisa that learns from another pasuk that says yashiv. And obviously, without the brisa, he wouldn't know how to define yashiv. But since the brisa defines it for him to say that includes even subin, so that contradicts his analysis of the pasuk.
Right.
Obviously, it's not his own analysis of the pasuk. Otherwise, there's kasira. This must be some sort of messiah that they had. That meitav is you can only pay with meitav. That must be a memra that he knew. And therefore, he's just near the theorem.
Okay, now I would first say that there's two possibilities. One, that he has it as a Masara. For instance, how did our Mishnah end off? Remember our Mishnah a long time ago? The last statement?
Yeah, the last statement was, it says,
Kishahazik.
Does it
say anything about anything else there?
No.
Now you read Rashi and you want to be a chacham because Rashi knows the conclusions of the Gemara, but it says meitav haaretz. That's what it says. Okay, it says. And that's number one. That's number one. If that's to answer you if it's a Masara. But if in the approach to analyzing a pasuk is always to go from literary dafka, unless I'm forced not to say so. Okay.
And you go from
literary meaning, which means no metaphors. He put his hand in its rhyme. Literally, it means what it says, and also it's only here and nowhere else. If it says that you pay meitav, it means only meitav. Okay, that's how we start. We start with the minimalistic interpretation of the pasuk. Then I'm from, what do they say? I'm from Kansas, whatever. Then whatever it is, then you have to. The burden is on Motzi Mechaber Elav Araya. If you want to now expand that definition, you have to improve because it means what it
Okay, but that's
says.
the, right. So that's good for one of the two things that you need for this to be a contradiction, which is that you pay only with Meitav. The other one that you need is that it applies to all damages. The
Okay. Now you'll remember our other great thing. Remember our other great, I'm not going to open it up because I think my computer will blow up. I need more memory. Remember Tachas Tzini Shalom Kesev?
Yes.
Yes. Tachas Tzini Shalom Kesev. That there it goes. There it is. No, I'm just, that's your computer. Hiccuped. There we go. There's Tachas Nasini Shalom Kesef. Wow. I showed this to my Chavrusa. I said, if you're not totally, in another world when you see this, then you never understood what Gemara is about. And then I explained to him how we got here. But 4 words in a Gemara equals the spread of this din with Shein and Regel of Meitav. All these other cases, it says Yeshalem around here, Yeshalem around there. It says Tachas here, it says Kesev and Nasan here. Wonderful. So look over here. Here's our case of what? Bor. Right?
Bor, right.
No. So the din of Meitav went right to Bor. Okay?
Right.
Now,
okay,
Bor... So that now we know that Meitav goes to Bor, and it goes to all the other Nezikin. And even Rabbi Akiva over here says it was going to go Kal V'chom with the Hegdish. But at least we got it over to Bor and all the Nezikin. And we say, wait a minute. Hold on. These two Pesukim are clashing now. Why? Because he says, as you said rightfully, it says that you pay for damages only with Meitav. Now all of a sudden the Bryce's word Yashiv, first of all, Yashiv says clearly Kesev. Bor says clearly Kesev. Let's look at the pasuk. Okay, there we are. Ki yiftach ish bor yikra ish bor v'lo yechasenu v'nafal shamashor chamor bal habor yeshalam Kesev. Yashiv lebalav. Wait a minute. So now the Baal Bor has to pay Kesev, Shaveh Kesev. And not only Meitav. Now, let's get. Okay.
So I see on the bottom of the art scroll they bring this down from the Pnei Yeshua. What you're saying that they say Alpha Bisha Makers today never will gabi Shein Beregel. Because Yashul Lebal Nemer Gabi Nezig Bar, Ef Shaloimer Sharak Al Nizke Shein Regel Tzavach L'Shal Min Meitav. They say it's not possible to say that only for Shein and Regel you pay Meitav. Avol Nizke Bar Ef Shal L'Shal Mafil B'Subin. And they say Shekim La'el Hingam Aleph Laman B'Gzeir Shava Shakala Esmer Av Nizikin Tzvich L'Shal Min Meitav. So that's exactly what you're saying. They bring it down, and they bring it down from the Pnei Yeshua.
Okay. I'm glad the Pnei Yeshua said it. It's here. It's not a chiddush of the Pnei Yeshua. He happened to remember what he studied instead of just learning one page. And happy we finished that for the daf today. Okay. Right. So now here is we have new charts. Wow. Great. So comes along a buy and it says here, the pasuk says, you have to pay with the best of your land, right? That means that's the acceptable payment for damages. I should say the only acceptable one is Meitav. But wait a minute, we have Yoshiv, Kesev, Yoshiv L'Balav, to tell us that give money and you can give any type of hashava, which is all these things. I can give metaltalin. Let's say there's 2 types of things that have value. Okay, let's say that there's movable things and immovable things. Land is immovable, but Yashiv said that you can give the best movables and even the worst movables, no problem. So now you're telling me that this pasuk says you can only give the best of the land. Doesn't work. It's a contradiction, because this, the best of the land, can go in this circle. Of course, it's money value means shaveh kesef. This is also shaveh, right? So I can give the best of the land. I could give the worst of the land. I could give the best of my movables and the worst of my movables. Now, that can't be, because when the pasuk was here, Abaya said it means only the best of the land. Now you're telling me even the best of the land doesn't work. That's not the diuk. So you'll say lav dafka, right? Okay, everything is lav dafka, but he doesn't want to answer lav dafka, because you can't have one pasuk that includes everything, a pasuk that denies everything. Doesn't. It's a open contradiction. Now, let me bring up, if we were talking about assessment of damage, remember a long time ago, assessment of damage? You know, how do you assess damage? And that was Meitav's about. So then this kasha would have never come up. Yeah. But Rebbe Akiva, when he said assessment of damage, was not just looking to solve a local problem over there and what the pasuk meant, but he's looking globally throughout Shas. I mean, if Shas Cohen could do it, you know, Yeshua Cohen, Rebbe Akiva could do it light years faster than Shas Cohen. So again, how can we explain Rebbe Akiva here? On one hand, it says Meitav alone. On the other hand, it says you can give kesef, okay? And not only kesef, anything that has the value of money. Okay, shaveh kesef means something that's equivalent to money. So that means you can give everything. Now, if I ask you, let me be clear, okay? Because in this, I wasn't here. When you said over here in the first pasuk, you said the best of land, right? He said v'midi achrina lo, right? That's what he said. He said meitav v'midi achrina lo. That means meitav. What was the midi achrina? Well, what are the other possibilities? One is the best of land and not the medium and worst. And the other possibility is the best of land and not money and not any type of movables, better or worse. Right?
Right.
Okay, so all these things would be unacceptable. They should all be over here as called unacceptable payment for damage. And the only thing acceptable is that. So that's okay. Let the Torah said it, but the Torah also said that money is acceptable. So it couldn't be. That already knocks us out. Money's acceptable. It also said that all types of movables are acceptable. And if all types of movables are acceptable, it means anything that has value, Baininus and Zibris land also has value, that's also acceptable. So now we're really in hot soup. We are in a terrible, terrible dilemma. Terrible. This dilemma is so terrible that there's going to be 5 different ways to get out of the problem. And we're going to have to look at each one of those ways and exactly do what you did with our Kal v'chomer lahegdish, which is, what is the basis of comparison? Why would you say that they would be acceptable for damages or unacceptable for damages? And how could we explain that there's a difference between the best of land and everything else, or some of everything else? Or how can we cut the cake so that we can get rid of this terrible, terrible collision of pesukim? So there's going to be no less than 5 solutions. Oh, let me show you my other little chart here. Okay. Oh, where is it? That's so many things I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, I see where it is. I remember where it is. Here we go. It's right here. It was here all the time. I'll give my presentation. I'll have to practice more. Okay, this is not the drive shaft of an automobile. Here's the two wheels and here's the body. No, that's what it is. What I tried to do here is show that these two pasukim come into contradiction. What? Excuse me? Better place. Yeah, exactly.
Battery.
The battery in better place. How do you put it in? Okay, basically what we're going to do here, and just as an overview, is we're going to have this pasuk of a kesef, Yoshiv, l'Rabba Shava Kesef, and the pasuk of Meitav, which means Meitav in and Mid Yachrina Lo. That's going to conflict with each other. In order to break this conflict, the Ramchal says we're going to have to look for a bechina that is going to change either the subjects, which look to be the same and are not, or they exist in a certain aspect that another one doesn't. But the way we have to solve a contradiction, as he said, is we're going to have to change some aspect of the two pasukim in their relationship to each other. And by doing that, we'll be able to split them. The common phrase is, when faced with a contradiction, make a distinction. So we're going to have 5 distinctions here. The first 3 are going to fail with these reds here, right? And we're going to have 2 that make it. And these 2 that make it then will be the discussion. They were shown him. Okay, which one is the halacha and what do they mean? We're going to go down to the next level. But that's where we're heading. We're heading to Baya now brings this contradiction of the 2 pasukim. He says they cannot live together. One says you can only give meitav. The other one says you can give kesef, shavik kesef, and beinis and zibur is also shavik kesef. You can, as a matter of fact, you give everything. So one says you can give everything, and the other one says you can give only meitav. So we're in a dilemma. Also, as what I did in this chart, even without knowing any of the information here, is that their madrega is down, which means, again, another chiddush, which is every time we move down the Gemara page, the answer is going to be more dochek, but we're going to be forced to get there. We're going to be forced to take a more dochek position in what the Pesukim are. Okay? Getting back to the Ramchal, when we see a pasuk, a verse, we have to then compare it to other verses. It's through that dynamic relationship that the 2 pasukim have that we will be able to see the true geder of each one of the pasukim. Without the collider, you don't see the real meaning of the pasuk at all. Okay, so let's now go through. How much time do I have? Lost track of time.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stop.
Okay, Beseda. Okay, so the next time, what do you think of all this? Okay, the next time we're going.
Great. No, I'm very excited about it.
I think this is the future of what's going to happen, because I'm not doing anything here except applying simple rules of thinking and simple tools to explaining what the Gemara is doing. I'm not adding a single parish at all. I am just presenting the information in a clear way so you know what is at stake, what is the problem, and now we decide what is the solution, and then we'll see what solution is better than which solution and why, and then we're ready. And that's called understanding what's really, really happening. That's before Chidushin. I'm not trying to say from here I could say something over there. From here I can build a rule. I'm not building anything. First I want to understand. I say first you have to be an observant Jew. Observe, listen. They said the best thing you can do with Chachamim is shtika. Shtika is the best thing. Be quiet, listen, understand very deeply what they're saying, and then maybe in the end of the line you'll have some wise thing to add to the discussion. Okay, but that's where we're holding. Be'ezrat Hashem, now we're going to go through these 5 wonderful explanations, and we're going to now see watch the bouncing ball. We'll see how the pieces are put together, and more exciting, what is the final message? In the end, there's the structure, but in the end it has to mean something. It can't just be, well, it works mathematically, but who knows why. It has to make very, very good sense each one of these positions, and they do. Baruch Hashem. Okay, have a great day,
Okay.
and we'll see you
Thank you very much.
next week, Bezrat Hashem.
Yep.
Go
Okay.
to goodbye now.
Very good.